All right, welcome back to ABA exam review in our latest set of BCBA practice questions where we're going through this set together and breaking each question down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. As always, when you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. You attend a parent-teacher conference as the representative of your client. The client's teacher tells you that the client engages in disruptive behavior throughout class. You ask the teacher why this behavior occurs, and the teacher tells you that the child is undisciplined and unfocused. This would be considered what? All right, so we're looking at this teacher and their explanation that your child is undisciplined and unfocused. So essentially the teacher is saying the cause of the disruptive behavior is the undisciplined and unfocused nature of the child. Now, as a future behavior analyst, the first thing you should think when you hear words like undisciplined and unfocused is mentalism. We're not describing causes through mentalisms, right? How do we measure undisciplined? How do we measure unfocused? How do we observe these things? The teacher's opinion of what undisciplined and unfocused are might be very different than what you consider undisciplined and unfocused. Undisciplined and unfocused do nothing to help us with this disruptive behavior. It's not an antecedent. It's not a consequence. We don't know any more previously or currently than we did previously due to the teacher's explanation. So the teacher's explanation is considered what? A hypothetical construct. Now, how do you distinguish or differentiate between a hypothetical construct and an explanatory fiction? Well, the hypothetical construct are the words, essentially. So when we say things like ego, undisciplined, frustration, those are the hypothetical constructs. The explanatory fiction is when we use those constructs as the causes for behavior. And that's what this teacher is doing. She's using the constructs to explain away the behavior, making this an explanatory fiction. It's not quite circular reasoning yet. Circular reasoning would be, well, the child is disruptive because they're undisciplined and unfocused, and, well, he's undisciplined and unfocused, leading to his disruptive behavior, meaning we're just going in circles here. What the teacher is currently doing, though, is explaining away the behavior using these mentalism, using these constructs. And an explanatory fiction does us no good and gets us no closer to figuring out what's maintaining the behavior, what's actually causing the behavior, and how are we going to change that behavior. A baseball coach tells his team that he will buy everyone lunch on Monday if Jordan is able to get 2 hits tonight in the game, or if Mark is able to pitch 7 innings. What type of group contingency is this? So when we think of group contingencies, we think independent, interdependent, and dependent. Independent says everybody's on their own. If you meet the contingency, you get reinforcement. Interdependence says everybody's reliant on everybody else. Everybody must meet the contingency. Dependent is where one person or a small sample of the whole group must complete the contingency in order for the whole group to gain reinforcement. What is occurring here? Well, Jordan, if he gets 2 hits, or Mark, if he can pitch 7 innings, either of those things happen, the coach is going to buy everyone lunch. So what type of contingency is this? A, independent. Well, it's not independent because the whole group is still dependent on somebody else. B, interdependent. It's not interdependent because the whole group doesn't have to meet the contingency. It is, in fact, C, dependent, because the whole group is reliant on either Jordan or Mark. This is the hero procedure. Either Jordan or Mark must come through or the group gets nothing. If Jordan or Mark come through, everybody in the group gets lunch. Your toddler learned to say bye-bye when someone was leaving the house. They also learned to say bye-bye whenever they were leaving the house. Today, your toddler picked up their toy purse and said bye-bye. What does this behavior represent? So whose behavior are we looking at? We're looking at the toddler's behavior. And specifically, what behavior of the toddler? Well, them saying bye-bye. So the toddler says bye-bye in the presence of someone leaving the house. They say bye-bye whenever they leave the house. So escaping the house, leaving the house, however you want to view it. And also, now they say bye-bye in the presence of the toy purse. So we've got all these different stimuli evoking the same response. What do we call that? A, stimulus generalization. Yes, when multiple stimuli start to evoke the same response, we're now generalizing across stimuli. It's stimulus generalization. How is stimulus generalization different than response generalization? With response generalization, we've got a single stimulus, and now new responses are occurring, right? New, novel, multiple responses are occurring in the presence of a single stimulus. Here, we have a single response, which is bye-bye. And bye-bye is occurring in multiple instances in the presence of different stimuli. It's generalizing across all these different stimuli, whereas response generalization, we have a lot of different responses for a single stimulus. It's not overgeneralization. None of these things are inappropriate, because when we pick up our purse or our bag, we say bye-bye, so that's fine. And it isn't discrimination, because the toddler isn't discriminating between anything. They see the stimulus occurs or is in the presence of the toddler, and the toddler engages in the response. The behavior is stimulus generalization. An adult client representing themselves expresses that they want to get a job, but they do not have transportation. You tell them you will design a skill acquisition plan which will provide them the skills needed to travel around town. What dimension of ABA are you adhering to? Okay, dimension question, dimension of ABA. And when we think about our 7 dimensions and we get dimension questions, we've got to be very, very diligent on understanding what the question is asking, because the dimensions typically overlap, they occur simultaneously, so we want to be really sure what we're talking about. In this case, you've got an adult client who wants to get a job. They don't have transportation, so you're gonna design a skill acquisition plan which will give them the skills needed to travel around town, which is a cusp because it's going to lead them to what? The job. So what dimension of ABA are you adhering to? A, effective. Well, can we know if you're effective yet? No, you haven't even designed the plan yet. You told them you're going to design the plan. You're going to design it to be effective, but we don't know yet if it's effective or not. B, applied. Sure, because is using transportation to get a job socially valid and meaningful? Absolutely. This is very, very applied. What about C, analytic? We don't know yet. Analytics says there's a functional relationship occurring between behaviors and variables that we're manipulating. We don't know yet. Again, we're not there yet. You told them, I will make a meaningful change in your life, or do my best to. We're not sure if it's effective yet. We're not sure if it's analytic yet. There's no way to tell until we actually do it. And then D, conceptually systematic. We don't know anything about your skill acquisition plan. Just because maybe you're an analyst doesn't mean you're always going to be conceptually systematic, even though you should be, right? We're required to be conceptually systematic. Doesn't mean you always will be, okay? But you're supposed to be. We don't know anything about the plan. The only thing we know right now is that you're being applied because you're taking this meaningful, socially valid behavior and targeting it. Ms. Rachel implements a new phonics curriculum with her class starting in September. Many students demonstrate significant improvements in reading throughout the month. However, Ms. Rachel learns that many, but not all, of the students received outside tutoring during the month of September, so she assumes that the curriculum had no effect on reading for any of the students. What type of error did Ms. Rachel likely make? All right, let's think about this question. What type of error did Ms. Rachel make? And in ABA, we need to know type 1 errors and type 2 errors. Type 1 errors are essentially false positives. We're saying our intervention had an effect, even though it didn't. Type 2 errors are false negatives. We're saying our intervention did not have an effect, even though it did. So what occurred here? Ms. Rachel taught a new phonics curriculum. Many students demonstrated improvements in reading throughout the month. Ms. Rachel then learned many, but not all, of the students received outside tutoring during the month of September. So she assumes that the curriculum had no effect on reading for any of the students. Now, what's wrong with that? Well, while it's true that many of the students received outside tutoring, meaning that could have been a confound, meaning maybe her curriculum wasn't effective, not all of the students received tutoring. So there are some students where it's quite possible her curriculum had an effect. So Ms. Rachel made the error of what? Well, she made the error of believing her intervention had no impact on the outcome. Now, is that a type 1 error? Well, it's not a type 1 error because remember, that's when we believe that our intervention had an effect when it didn't. Ms. Rachel did the opposite. She believes her intervention did not have an effect when it quite possibly and most likely did. We're not worried about type 3 errors. We're not learning type 3 errors, right? And then D, none of the above. No, Ms. Rachel made a type 2 error. She believes her curriculum had no effect when actually it's likely at least it affected one student. An extinction procedure targeting Clyde's attention-seeking shirt pulling started last week. Throughout the week, Clyde was still periodically pulling on shirts. This periodic behavior could be described as what? Now be careful here, all right? We're using extinction. We're targeting the behavior of attention-seeking shirt pulling. Throughout the week, Clyde is still periodically pulling on shirts. So as behavior continues to occur, even though extinction is present, what do we call that? A, resistance to extinction. This is resistance to extinction. Resistance to extinction is how frequently or how often the behavior still occurs, even though it's going through extinction. And a lot of things affect resistance, like learning history and reinforcement history. What it isn't is an extinction burst. An extinction burst needs an increase in behavior, right? And no increase is mentioned. It simply says Clyde is still periodically pulling on shirts. So Clyde is resisting extinction, but this is not necessarily an extinction burst. It can't be spontaneous recovery or resurgence because those happen after extinction has already occurred. So the periodic behavior of Clyde pulling on shirts during extinction is considered A, resistance to extinction. Hayden picks up a piece of paper, rips off the corner, and puts it in his mouth. When his dad reaches for his mouth to take it out, Hayden starts laughing and running away. Hayden's dad gets frustrated and takes away the paper from Hayden. What is likely the function of Hayden's behavior? All right, a pretty straightforward function question, but you've got to remember as you're studying for your BCBA and BCABA exam is you cannot neglect the simple stuff. So it's always good to keep refreshing yourself even on the foundational material. What do we know about Hayden and his behavior? Well, he takes paper, rips it off in the mouth. Dad reaches for his mouth to take it out. Hayden laughs and runs away. Hayden's dad gets frustrated, takes the paper from Hayden. What is likely the function? A, attention. Well, according to the information, what Hayden is gaining is dad's attention. Attention seems likely. B, tangible. Did Hayden gain any tangible from this? No. The consequence was the dad reaching for the mouth. The consequence was the dad getting frustrated. He's not gaining a tangible, right? And he's not escaping anything, okay? He's not escaping from a situation or a stimulus or a stimuli, right? He's just getting dad's attention. And it can't be automatic because it's socially mediated. So the likely function is simply A, attention. Excellent. Thanks for watching. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials. As always, let us know when you pass so we can include you in the Sunday shout-out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.